Okay, database. Let's talk about database, because this is where some really exciting things were added to this release. For DB2 on I, we focused on a couple of areas: security, application development, database engineering, and performance. Always have to focus on performance. Security, we'll cover that in a minute. Same with some of the app dev stuff. Let's talk about the database engineering. Let's talk timestamp precision. Today, if you need to get a timestamp for an entry, how many characters is the timestamp? 6, correct. Can you make it less or more? No, it's 6. With the processors today, it's very easy to get duplicate records, because the processors are too fast for 6 precision places. So in 7.2, we extended that to 12. Now, we can ensure you have unique IDs based on your timestamp. Great. What about if you don't need 6 positions? You need 1 position. Today, you get 6. So that's 5 characters waste. Over 1 million records, it's a lot of space, right? So today, we now allow you to define your precision. 0, 12, you pick. So you get the precision you need, small or large. Let's talk about performance. IBM, we've been telling you to move to SQL for a long time, right? That's where we've been making updates to our performance engines. We want you to move to SQL. We want you to move off of Query 400. How many people use Query 400? Exactly. Yeah, hands keep going up, right? So, in 7.2, we changed so that the query engine, the SQE query engine, now will run your Query 400 or Open Query file accesses. You don't want to change? That's okay. We changed the engine for you. So now Query 400 reports will be able to take advantage of the improvements in the query engine and the metrics that it gives you. With the new query engine, the SQE engine, there are metrics that tell you if you have a query that's running slow, so you can go find out why. Now, your Query 400 reports will be reported in those metrics. Help you figure out what's going on your machine. Okay, security. This is a major area that we focused on. When it comes to data-centric security, we've had in our applications, well, first off, IBM I has got object-level security, right? But if you want to control the data within an object, today you need to do that at the application layer. There's ways to do it. But what if somebody comes in and accesses the data without going through the application? You're exposed, right? So let's talk about making your security data-centric. Let's put the security layer in the data. Then it's secure either way. So we want something that's comprehensible. It needs to be auditable, sustainable, scalable. You've got to be able to manage it. In the world we live in today, we have more and more compliance that we need to do, right? PCI compliance, healthcare, banking, the list goes on. This is intended to address the compliance of protecting your data. There's a couple areas that we focused on. We have column masking, row permissions. We added a new clause for check constraints. So there's a new violation. If somebody comes and does a check constraint, it'll get an audit record generated. You can now do remote journaling with SSL. Additions to the change object ownership. Let's talk about separation of duty. Today, if you have authority to an object, let's say you're a security officer, you have all object authority, right? That means you have access to all the data in all those objects. Question: does the security officer need access to the data? Correct. They do not. They don't need to see my credit card number, my private ID number, lots of other information that may be in your databases. How do you protect that? RCAC, RCAC, Row Column Access Control, is this new support that we delivered in 7.2 to allow you to protect yourself from yourself. So you can build security in to allow the security officer to do their job without violating data protection. That's what RCAC is about. Make sense? It's all about not exposing your data. Okay, so what is RCAC? RCAC is a couple of things. First, it's an additional layer of security. So it's on top of the already existing object layer security. It complements the security to the tables today. It allows you to subset access to... He's giving me 10 minutes after all that. I'll live. That's fine. Subsetting access based on who you are and your responsibilities. I can control access to a row, a column, or both. I can control access to the entire table. We can... Two different rules, permissions and column mask. Let's dig into those a little bit. And then where do you get it? There's a new option, option 47. So when you order 7.2, you'll need to get BOSS option 47. It's no charge. It's a separate option where this support's in. Okay, let's look at some examples. Here's an example of masking. So we're going to create a mask for a column. The column is what we call Social Security number. That's my ID number in the US. When my group for the user is payroll, then return the entire Social Security number. Payroll, you want to get paid, they need to know your number, who to pay. Makes sense. They should get access. Say your user is a member of manager. My manager does not need to know my Social Security number, at least the whole thing. The last 4 digits they might need just for identification. So we create a mask. And the mask is going to return XXXXXX and the last 4 characters. Managers will only see that number. Do the same thing for credit cards. Very common. Other data that you might need to protect. You can, there's data there, but you can put in whatever values you want. This is obviously programmatic. You can program in and control whatever, however simple or complex you need. Masking. Permissions. Let's talk about this one. So I'm going to create a permission constraint. So for the group session, if the user is the patient, well, you're a patient. It's my records. I should probably be able to see them. Okay, makes sense. What about if you're belonging to accounting, or maybe you're part of drug research? there might be other groups in the hospital that may need some access. Now, the interesting part is I can create a permission for this entire row. If I belong to drug research, great. Give them information. On the same hand, they have access to the data in the row. I can then add a mask, because even drug research doesn't need access to some of my personal information, right? And you can control exactly what they can access and what they see when it's returned. And your application is no longer controlling this. This is controlled at the database level, which means it simplifies your application. Now, if you have this in your application, great, it'll still work. But if I come in with a query or an SQL access, skip the application, go to the database, guess what? Your data is still protected because it's at the database level. It's part of the OS. And we know you can't break into the OS unless you do something really stupid when you set it up. Okay? Let's talk about some application things that we added. We added some DB2 services. There's services that you can use SQL to access stuff. I want to get access to a user ID, system value. I want to know which job on my system is using the most storage. How do you do that today? Call an API. You call a CL program. With DB2 services, I can use SQL. And it's pretty simple. Example 1. I want to know all the user IDs on my system whose password is going to expire in the next 7 days. That's this many. 7 days. How do you do that today? It's pretty difficult. With a simple SQL statement, I can go get my DB2 service for users where the status is enabled, the date password expires between current and plus 7 days, and return all the users. There they are. With one simple SQL statement that I can run in my mobile interface under database, run SQL, I can run it from here. Or I can put it in my program and do it programmatically. I want to see the top 10 users of storage on my system. So I'm going to use the storage service. I'm going to group the entries by username and order them by the total storage used. And then I'm going to fetch top 10. There's my list. Now I know the 10 biggest storage hogs. Interesting. Very simple, very easy. I just wrote a blog entry. Some of this, by the way, is also available on 7.1, TR6, and TR7. We've been adding new services for the last few TRs. I just wrote a blog entry that I'm going to post probably later this afternoon that has like 6 or 7 examples in it. Another thing for you to look at. Okay. Questions? This is all the other stuff in DB2 that we added. You'll get these slides, by the way. I give them to Valdek. He'll give them to you. Lots and lots of stuff. I can't have time to spend all of it because I'm already getting yelled at for going over. Let's talk application development for a little bit. We've been continuing to add to our application development portfolio. RPG, COBOL, Java. We've recently added Samba. we've added support for our Liberty profile. We've made updates to Apache. I've talked about the Red Book. RPG. In 7.2, the default is the new freeform. We delivered that the end of last year as part of 7.1. By the way, you do not need TR7, you need one PTF. It was announced as part of TR7. So you can get this today for 7.1, and you can write modern RPG using modern tools. We also added CSID support, bunch of stuff. Our modern tools, this is what Charlie's going to talk about. RDI. RDI has code coverage. I can see exactly what line of code was run. Charlie will talk more about that next. If I need to do mobile, with our Zen Server 6, Zen Studio 10 support, Zen is our PHP partner, you can create your own mobile applications that will access your backend RPG or database. You can do that today. You have a license to this because you have IBM. So you can do mobile support today on I. You have the capability. HTTP. If you're using the HTTP server today, we've updated to version 2.4 of Apache. There's some major changes there. You'll need to be aware of them. If you are using HTTP, send me an email. I will send you some information about the entire list of things that changed. Okay? Our integrated application server. We've had an integrated application server since 2007. We are switching it and have switched it to the Liberty server. Liberty is the IBM WebSphere enterprise server, right? Creating something that's equivalent to Tomcat, but works better. And is guaranteed to be upward compatible to the big WebSphere if you need to go there. Tomcat's not. It will run on any platform. I can develop it on my Mac, my Linux, my Windows PC, pick up the entire application, drop it onto my I, it's guaranteed to work. Very useful. Web services. We've had a web services engine on I for a long time, allowing you to point at an RPG or COBOL program, and we will create a web service for you. It's very simple to use. It's been built on LWI Access 2. We are now switching it to run on Liberty JAX-WS. So it's the latest support in web services. This gives me the ability to also do REST. And later this year, we'll be delivering REST support for our web services. So you'll be able to create a SOAP-based or REST-based web service if you need. The list of other applications, if you use Lotus products today, they're still all supported. IBM just took out the word Lotus. If you have WebSphere products, you need to be aware IBM 6.1, WebSphere 6.1 and WebSphere 7 do not run on IBM i 7.2. Java. We have removed support for Java 5 and Java 1.4.2. Java 5 has been out of support by Oracle for quite a while now. Didn't make sense for us to continue that on 7.2. If you use NetServer today for doing IBM I to your PC files, we now have the open source Samba. It's another alternative. It's much faster. Something that you could consider. Okay? Questions? I'm going through this rather quickly. Systems management. Spend a minute to talk about Navigator. Within Navigator, we've added support for doing PTF management. I can install. I can send PTFs from one system to another. I can compare PTFs from system A to system B. I have monitors. I can monitor messages. I can monitor my messages for a message ID and then take an action. I can monitor for some system, CPU, for example, disk activity. When I reach a threshold, take an action. So there's monitors that were added to Navigator. The ability to find what you're looking for. We created a favorites list. So I can go to my favorite place, click on the table, and I can build my own navigation. So that you click, you're immediately taken there. We all know the names of the screens by the CL command name, right? WRKACTJOB, work active job. I can now, in my quick search, enter the CL command name, and we show you the screen that it's on. Click, you're there. Or I can do things like this, and I can see all of the add screens. Click, I'm taken right there. Performance Data Investigator. This is one of the main reasons to consider using Navigator, to find out what's going on your system. We have a quick search that we added that allow you to find things much faster. Batch model. If you've got a batch job that runs on your system and you want to improve performance, how do you do it today? Mostly guesswork. With batch model, I can take a collection over my batch window. I can then go and model changes. If I add memory, what does it do? It gives me a side-by-side comparison. If I change from spinning drives to SSDs, what does it do? And I get a side-by-side comparison. So you can change both system configuration and hardware configuration and model what that changes are. We also added in 7.2 improved accounting, so I can actually go and see my max storage, temporary storage, and who's using it. Which job has the most temporary storage? Okay. Couple things on security, because Valdek's getting ready to come drag me off. FTP, Telnet, can now be used with single sign-on. We enhanced our audit records to make them a lot more detailed. And we also updated our PACE environment to now run on AIX 7.1. We also updated our OpenSSL, which, by the way, never had Heartbleed in it. We never had that version on I. This is the list of things that we extended for limits. Lots of things. Job table limits, memory pools. This is the biggie that people need to be aware of. The load source must be at least 70 gig for 7.2. Okay. I will stop at this point if you have questions. My email address, I believe, is right there. I will send, this deck has probably got 100 slides. I will send all 100 slides to Valdek. If you have questions, if you want to chat about things, send me an email, please. Charlie! Somebody want to go get Charlie? Thanks, Pete. Any questions before Charlie gets up here while he gets set up? Again, we delivered a lot of stuff in 7.2. And this was just a brief summary.